Stream Elements said the busy builder is now live, streaming miniatures.
Hello. Get my feet uncramped. There we go. So, waiting on the decals to set up. We're going to throw some NATO green on these and on these. We'll be using this too. Ow. Pliers. Maybe. Nope. Okay, different bottle. There we go.
RS_studios.
How's it going?
RS_studios asks how you.
I'm alright. We got an inversion right now. It's when you live in a valley and essentially the air literally inverts and nothing can move in or out. And essentially all the pollution and just nasty crap in the air get trapped under it, and nothing happens to it until a storm comes in. The sky is yellow outside right now. Eyes are burning. Wake up looking like I smoked a bowl. because my eyes are just red when I wake up. You can probably hear my throat's a bit hoarse, just because, yeah. It's nasty. And what's sad is a lot of it isn't even from us. It's from fucking California and Arizona and Nevada. It gets blown up and into here from there. So these are the combat identification panels. They're designed to reflect differently under thermal conditions, I believe, since they hold heat differently. They help with friend or foe identification. The kit didn't come with them, so I got them from a Tamiya parts kit. They were developed as part of a program to prevent friendly fire incidents after the first Gulf War. And I don't know what these panels are, but I've seen them on the front of the Abrams enough that I'm going to add them. They're just flat panels. I think they serve a similar purpose. This isn't going to go well. I'm painting them with a different brand of NATO green than what I used as the primer, because I want them to show up slightly different than how they look when they're installed, or I don't want them looking the same color as the tank. Helps keep it from getting a little visually dead.
RS_Studios asks, so, what do you think about Return to Silent Hill?
If it follows the game story better, I think it'll be alright. From the look of it, it has nothing to do with the first films. So I'm willing to give it a chance as a standalone film as long as they don't try and do that. We'll see. I know it comes out on the 23rd. Unless you've managed to get a copy already somehow. I've seen enough pictures of these without a lot of unit markings on them. I'm not going to worry too much about that. They usually just have the S4 for the stabilization forces markings. So that's what I'm going to put on it. Going a bit more generic than, you know, I'm not trying to aim for a specific vehicle. Kind of taking features from a few different ones. Tracks still aren't glued on yet. But I think it might be a fun film, though. I've seen a few things in the trailers that already give me a little bit of, you know, faith, so to speak. And the second game's story is much more easy to translate to screen. I've heard it's essentially Crime and Punishment, which sounds about right. Doesn't appear to be any yellow markings on the rear. Just on the front. And it looks like it was some kind of tape that was applied. It may have been reflective, but I don't know. I've seen some pictures where later on they're painted over or torn off, but they couldn't get it all off. What do you think of Return to Silent Hill? Another thing I'm going to add is the Velcro strips for the Miles gear system. They're training sensors attached to Velcro, which is very apparent as strips on the turret in the pictures. And in a lot of the shots, you can also see it going under the panels that I'm going to be adding. Screwed that one up. That'll teach me for trying to cut one-handed. Okay, I need a hard straight edge. I've almost got to move the tape so I can see the clean edge of it. I just painted it flat on the mat. I wasn't worried about getting paint all over it. Don't know how long I'll be on today. I guess for...
Fatman_kitchen said evening.
Hey Fat Man, welcome to the channel. That'll do for a start. I'm gonna take this one off. Sorry, I didn't switch it over to all. No, there. Okay. Need to find a good side view picture real quick, just so I can tell where that stops. There's a good one. From what I can tell, it just stops right there.
Fatman_kitchen said looking at the Meng Char 2C kit for a kit bash project. At Fatman_kitchen asks you ever seen it?
No, I'm not a big fan of French World War II stuff. But if you're looking for one for a kit bash, use the Tamiya one. It might be more cost effective. Unless the Meng kit has specific details you're wanting. But it's just, if it's just for general shapes, I'd go with the Tamiya one. we go. And once I get some... wow, my brain just died. I'm going to clear coat over it again before I do the wash to kind of seal the tape under so the mineral spirits doesn't get rid of the adhesive.
Said not produced my Tamaya, and other places only have resin.
Gotcha.
At Fatman_kitchen said bye.
I could have sworn Tamiya did one. Probably not. But no, I haven't seen it.
At Fatman_kitchen said any tips for camo.
In terms of painting it, it's up to you where you want to put it. Camo schemes, World War II is usually pretty much dictated by the crew. Modern day, everything's painted at the factory by robots, believe it or not. Have been since a while now. As always, there's usually a what's the word I'm looking for? There's always an exception, but generally, yeah, they're all painted by robot for modern. Keep the airbrush, if you're airbrushing it, keep it pointed toward the inside of your splotch. So like, if you're painting like this blotch here, keep the airbrush pointed that way or that way, and then fill in carefully. I've seen a lot of people use masking putty for their camouflage. I don't like it because they don't really consider the direction of spray. And in some parts... Hey George. Some parts you'll get a good hard edge, like really, really hard. And then other areas you'll get a too soft feathered edge. When it should be, for lack of a better description, a hard feathered edge. Where in this size it looks good and tight, but if you get close enough you'll see that it's been sprayed on. Study your references depending on what you plan on copying. It's the biggest thing. Which is what I'm doing whenever you see me stop and go clicking. Which is me going through reference images. But the exception is always there's going to be differences in the camo because maybe the crew had to repaint something. Maybe something got replaced, so there might be a part of a slightly different color. There's tons of different reasons. Make my green duct tape.
George Davis 7629 said ended up getting Mr. Surfacer 1200 for priming.
It's a good one. Did you get it in the jar or in the can? this inversion right
At
now.
George Davis 7629 said the wet paste slop in a jar.
No, it's not slop, it's just thicker. I prefer it in a jar. The can's good, but in the jar, even if it starts to dry up, you hit it with a little lacquer thinner, reducer, good as new. That's the biggest problem I've got with the Mr. Surfacer stuff is it can really dry out, even in the jar, if you're not careful. You gotta check on it frequently. Sorry, just my legs are just... They're not cramping, but they just hurt today. Did yesterday, too.
At George Davis 7629 said, but thanks for the recommendation.
No worries. Come on, you. Get off there. There. Hopefully this will be the last time I'm playing this game with the track. Because we're going to start the washes today. Need to paint over the decals, and where I just put that tape, seal it up a little bit with my clear. Yeah, they're good. Trying to cover over where the decal solvent messed something up too. Just helps give it a better even finish for the initial wash. We're not doing the wet effect on this one. the clear over the tape is to keep the mineral spirits from breaking down the adhesive on the tape. Because it'll seep under and seal it, and kind of surface harden the tape itself, keep it from peeling off. And the reason I use tape is that it has that thicker quality that the Velcro would have in the scale. So when I do the wash and everything, it'll collect on and around it just the right way. I think I hear some F-35s taking off. But this also makes for good scaled duct tape as well. I remember the Dragon M1A1 kit gave you these as a thick sticker just to put on the front of the turret. It never looked right to me. It still felt too thin. So I cut some panels out of plastic and spit all over myself while I do it. No, I cut some panels out of plastic, and then I'm putting the tape on the corners because it looks just like either duct tape or, again, more Velcro of some sort. Like I said, don't know the exact reason for these. It's probably simpler than I expect. But for me, I think it just feels better.
At the model student 20 said, "Hey everyone, happy modeling."
Hey, model student. How is your little Vodnik coming? The Bliatmobile. And for the thin sheet plastic, if you can't find something that works at your hobby shop, you can seriously just go buy a car sale sign. Where's that picture before my shit dries? That's good enough.
At the model, student 20 said done. Last doors are drying in place was a great kit.
That's good. I'm glad you had fun with it. I've got 2 kits on the way right now. One is the Grand Scale Architects by Kotobukiya, and the other is the FV432. Maybe in March I'll look into ordering the Chieftain. I really don't know how long I'll be on today, but I felt like working on something. And it seems you guys are enjoying following along as I do it on these tanks. So, here we are. Plus, I said in my Sunday stream I would attempt to get one in today or tomorrow.
Model student 20 said I just happened to notice you were on. I was editing and took a break.
No worries. I know I seem to be rather spontaneous on my non-scheduled days, don't I? Kicking the super glue so it hardens up a bit quicker. While that's all drying, I can get these glued on too. Okay, so we're gonna go right there. Should we knock it back a hair bit? Let's put it there. Get through that paint a little bit since it's been sealed. This is thin enough the glue should cut right through it. Now we're starting to get it. Fuck. And what great adventurous video are we editing now? Need a brush that can hold a little more glue than that thing can. I want to get these glossed up too. Seal that tape.
At the model student, Horny said Vodnik final with some figure work I will add tonight.
Yeah, I watched a little of the initial video when I was on lunch at work. There's a cat here. Yeah, when I was getting ready for the stream, I was cutting some stuff to prep it. Frankie jumped up on the desk right when I was cutting and almost got stabbed, little bugger. I keep playing fetch with him, but lately he hasn't been bringing his little puffballs back, so I can toss them again. And then he jumps up on the desk because he doesn't bring it, so I can't throw it, and he wants the attention.
model student 20 said it turned out well. I added some details, haven't weathered them yet.
Yeah, I saw stuff like the water bottles inside and everything. You need to get a 2-liter soda bottle and put some kvass markings on it. If I remember right, it's a drink that until recently wasn't considered an alcoholic beverage in Russia. But I think it is now. Sieving those bits of painted tape because I can make those into cargo straps to go over the stowage at a later point. Now, in my researches, I have seen that most of the groundwork in Bosnia does produce a dust color more akin to this. So we're going to start out with the European dust and probably throw in just a bit of the desert dust to lighten it up and give it that lighter, sandier color. Don't know if I'll get it as muddy as I got the M60. Most of them didn't seem to be that bad. Start out getting it in the road wheels. I always do the wheels on the side so it more evenly pools and spreads and does its thing. And then when I go to do the tracks, we'll stand it upright. This is also part of why I wasn't too concerned about being very neat on the tracks. You're really not going to see much above this point. I really hate this time of year. The European dust looks like it'll blend in pretty well with the earth color I chose for the track ends.
Stream Elements said thank you for following a white Kyle 565 smiley face.
Thank you for the follow, Kyle. Welcome to the channel.
Kyle 565 just followed. At the model student 20 said the dead zone lol.
Oh, it's more the way the weather is here. I was describing it earlier before you came in. We get what's known as an inversion here because we have we live in a valley.
Model student 20 said this time of year.
So, essentially, a really dense layer of colder air gets trapped under hotter air under a high pressure front. And in order for it to clear out, we need a low pressure front and a storm to come through. And there's nothing forecast out for the next week. Like, there is literally nothing. No rain, no snow, no nothing. High, and it's a steady temperature too. Highs in the mid 40s, lows in the mid 30s. But it keeps all the nasty smog and shit in the area, which in turn makes you hurt all over, makes your body feel like it's got a flu. It's really nasty crap. Don't move to Utah. Oof. Sorry, just trying to work my knee and my ankle around a bit of my left leg. It doesn't help that I'm on my feet all day at work, too. Okay, we'll get these up there.
Model student 20 said we are getting crappy weather here as well, damp and cold. Yeah.
I'd rather have the damp and cold because it means weather's moving. Here, this is worse because it's just cold. The kind of, it's not like cold, obviously, but it's enough that it gets to your bones, and since it doesn't shift very much, it just really sucks. Okay, where is my oil palette? Okay, we're gonna have to start a new one. I'd thought of painting on the mermaid today, but I don't have the, I don't have the brain to do it right now. I was working on her the other night, and then just decided, nah, I'll work on it another day. I got a little further along. I'd really like to finish her soon. So here we are getting started on the oil washes. Just artist oil paint. Where did I put the umber? Or am I that dumb and blind? Never took it out. Yeah, I'd rather have precipitation than this, whatever this is. It really is like... Oh, I went one better. Purple to green shift. Printed the base part of the tail out of clear green resin. I can show you if you want. I could have sworn you'd seen her. Yeah, give me a sec. I need to stand up and move around for a second anyway. It's time for the break. So let me pause it and I'll be right back.
The model student 20 said thumbs up emoji eyes emoji.
Alright, I'm back. My knee popped 3 times as soon as I stood up. But yeah, you see the shift effect there. Different angles looks purple. Other angles green. Then the fins are translucent. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one, but I'm still trying to pluck out all the details. The files are on CG Trader. They're only like $6. Keep that there. Get our nasty brushes out and promptly drop one of them. The hell'd that go? Oh, there it is. So what's everybody doing for like dinner tonight? We're doing crispy chicken sandwiches with roasted potatoes. I don't really need to put the wash in the anti-skid, but it'll help it pop out a little bit. The dusting stuff is going to do more work there than the wash.
At a white pile said shrimp tacos with black beans and rice.
Yeah, I can't do shrimp myself. Not that I'm allergic or anything, I just can't really do shrimp. Whenever I do a wash, I always mix the black with a little burnt umber. It helps keep the shadow from being too dead. Because that's what you're trying to create, is just a false shadow. And real shadows are never truly black. They're usually purplish or brownish in tone, depending on what they're on. I'm going to switch to a larger
Model
brush.
Student 20 said, don't forget, it's also the wash dispensing dish, which is paramount to creating the best possible results.
But you notice I am not using the oil absorbent preparatory board material.
George Davis 7629 said, hey model student. At George Davis 7629 said, hi Kyle. At the model student 20 said, bespoke dispensing dish, sorry.
But I forego the preparatory oil absorption pads before dispensing the paint.
At the model student 20 said, hey George.
I should really look into seeing if I could buy these separately and then create an online store for all the weird shit that I use.
At George Davis 7629 said, how you supposed to pay hobby tax if you ain't even using the pads, yeah.
I didn't know that the pads were a mandatory requirement. I mean, it's not like this is Eastern Europe where someone's got a gun to my head telling me to do it, is it? I have no sponsors in which to kowtow to. Is that it for the Snoozak? We'll get something started here. And we have an alley. Hey, girl. What was the other one I got today? You be careful. Got a lot of shit on the table. You be careful. Good girl.
At George Davis 7629 said always use a piece of cardboard.
I never have. I'd heard about it from Mike Rinaldi way back in the day. Tried it once. Saw that it actually didn't affect the way I do things in any way, in the slightest. And proceeded to carry on with the way I'd been doing it ever since the 80s.
7629 said, but if you're doing a wash, then I just squirt it straight into the solvent.
What girl, huh? I know there's a lot of crap on the desk. You can't get in front of the camera right now. I'm sorry, but you're very good for sitting right there. Yeah. Must appease the goddess before she destroys my desk. But that's all we're going for right here. You see how it's kind of formed a little shadow around the detail? It'll become more apparent once we clean it off. But I should really look into getting some bespoke paint dispensing dishes made.
At the Model Student 20 said I love some sponsors Academy, ICM, Dragon, Bandai, Kamaya, Vallejo, Reskit rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
The problem with that is that actually shoehorns you. I think it limits you. Because you're required to use exclusively their stuff, and there can be no competition.
At the Model Student 20 said tanks need brine at least some. George Davis 7629 said you're forgetting MIG ammo student.
How dare you say those slurs on this channel?
The Model Student 20 said write George and Busy's favorite, AK.
Ugh. None of them are my favorite because they're all owned by the same guy.
At George Davis 7629 said amen to that student. At the Model Student 20
Dicks.
said rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
bunch of brats. I should ban the lot of you.
The model student 20 said we don't need no stinking AK mid. Rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
I also found it rather contradictory that the person marketing his product under Russian companies, you know, AK, Kalashnikov,
At the model student
MiG,
20 said actually I use a bit of everything.
marketed his stuff towards the German armor modeler. I mean, obviously you could use most of the colors for any other damn thing in the world, but everything was marketed with some kind of German bent.
At the model student 20 said I tried to see if I like it or not.
I've given all that crap 3 tries over the years. Never impressed by any of it. So between that and then running into the instance where I read it online, and it was on a public forum, where essentially it was said that if you don't use my stuff, you're not building models right. Well, fuck you too.
As George Davis 7629 said I am skeptical around sponsorships. There's a reason their product is being pushed, and if it is being pushed, can I trust it?
Exactly the other reason I don't like his stuff. If it's so great, why is it being pushed so hard in all these different companies? They're like the profiles for the paint jobs and stuff. And like you saw with the M60, right? All the color callouts are for your brand's paint, correct? Wouldn't you want the picture of the vehicle they're being used on to be really, really big on the page so people can see where to apply it for the pattern and how much of each color and all that wonderful stuff to maximize the, you know, the visibility of your greatness? No, instead you can barely make out the pattern. Everything's shaded. The color callouts are almost unreadable because they're so tiny on the page. So, like, really, what the fuck's going on here? When it comes to the products, I see a lot of fucking red flags which make me not want to touch them. But that's me. If you guys want to use them, go right ahead. I'm sure they're probably just somebody else's shit repackaged anyway most times these days. Like the camo netting I use, we were talking about that last stream. All the same colors, same pattern cut, everything. $20 a sheet through the acronym companies.
At George Davis 7629 asks you seen how Games Workshop names their paints.
Yeah, it depends on the army you're going to use it on. The Space Wolf
George
Gray.
Davis 7629 said I like their Alclad 2 paints.
But Alclad's its own company. It's not subservient to the acronym companies.
At the model student 20 said I see the weathering products like fast food or frozen dinners. It's just techniques you can learn on your own, just provided in a pre-made product.
But the thing is, that pre-made product fails miserably at being what it's for. You can usually use it for something else, but it fails miserably at what it's for. The dry brushing paints are so thick, you can't really dry brush with them. It's either they're too thick to dry brush with, or they dry out by the time that you know there's no balance.
Student 20 said Outlad is also like 60 years old, I think.
Oh yeah, they've been around forever.
George Davis 7629 said most of Warhammer paints or military paints just renamed to make you buy their shit.
Oh, nowadays they probably are, but back in the day, it was Citadel and Ralpartha that were making the actual contents of the bottle, and they had their reputation to keep, you know. But yeah, nowadays, when Army Painter's putting out better shit than Games Workshop, you gotta wonder. And the thing is, most of the weathering technique paints that are out there can be done more simply and cheaply in other ways, which is what I'm doing the basic build for, is to showcase how that happens. Like what I'm doing right now. Streaking grime. Oh, but that has an element to make it glossy. Okay.
At the model student 20 said filters, shaders, washes, inks, texture paints, crackles, all that crap can be created from scratch if you search.
Or if you just know what you're doing. Okay, a wash. We're gonna get a little educational here. A wash can define detail. It's like antiquing on a ring or something like that. You slather it on, you rub it off, and what remains highlights the detail.
7629 said ooh is mud glossy.
It depends on the mud. It depends on how dry it is. You know, there is no catch-all for any of this. Anyway, what were we talking about? Seriously, what the fuck were we talking about? Oh, a wash helps you pick out detail. That's why you get people who get really picky. Oh, it's a pin wash. No, it's a fucking wash. You're just applying a name to it to try and seem all obtuse and snazzy. It's a wash. A filter shifts tone, color, right? So say I felt this is too green. I wanted it to be more like the NATO green on the front instead of the NATO green that's here. Which I learned this is more of the American forest green. This is actually NATO green. I would just mix up a really, really light, thinned out mix of oil paint, whatever paint you prefer, and I would apply it uniformly over the model to shift the color in that direction, right? I wouldn't remove any of it. It would just be on there, okay? And then you would generally want to do a filter before you do a wash. In most cases, because the filter, again, shifts the color, the wash plucks the details.
I used to use the wash technique on huge crown moldings in fancy places, etc.
So you know what I'm talking about. Because when you think of the term filter, you got to think of it like the old stage lighting. When they would put a red, blue, green, or a combination thereof gel filter over the light to broadcast it onto the set to change the color and tone of the set. Could you be crude about it and call it a wash? Yes. But if you're using it for its intended purpose, it's a filter. You don't have to buy bottles of pre-mixed paint to do your filters. Honestly, there's shit to begin with. Because then you're filtering it to that specific color in that bottle. What if you wanted something a bit more in the blue tone? Or maybe shift it up to the yellow. You'd still have to mix your own. Standard yellow might not be the right tone of yellow. What if it's more orange yellow, right? And then you get into the stupid crap like, I think it's kind of gone away. You can still see it out there in some people's stuff. Color modulation.
Said he would use glazes and textures to create very dramatic.
Yep. And glazing, again, it's a slow buildup of layers of the color to change and blend the tone. It's how you do it with a brush when you don't have an airbrush to do it. And you know what? There's a great companion to that. This book right here. It actually talks about glazing and how it works overall within the figure, and it gives a pretty good idea of it. I've got to go back. This book's been through some shit, by the way. Yeah, right here. This kind of shows you how feathering and glazing and blending works. It's like if you were to cut a cross section on how your layers kind of go together. When you do it this way, this is how you'd use glazing. You got your base color, then you want your next tone, and then your next tone. The colors aren't important, but it's just showing you how you leave a little bit more of each poking out the side. And that, to your eye, at that size, blurs together. Right? And that's really how that works. And you can kind of see the process here. This is why I like books. It's one thing trying to watch a video about it, but it's another thing when you can see the dramatic difference that you're kind of aiming for. It gives you a good visual reference that you can refer back to when you do that. There's just been so much stuff put out lately that it's hard to get a definitive, solid foundational answer on anything. I know I keep going on about this, and I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing it. You might even be egging me on to do it now. But I hope you understand what I'm getting at by trying to explain it. Just so many different things are being pushed right now. But all these things require the base user to have a solid foundational knowledge of model building and painting and how all these things integrate and work together. Most people don't.
Said books are the best for reference, especially when it comes to color and tone.
And it's a disservice that these books aren't being shown as much anymore. I don't even want to say displays, but like you ask on a forum, even Fine Skill Modeler, how do I do an oil wash? Okay. One person will tell you to do exactly what I'm doing, which is your basic oil wash, right? And then you get another person that comes in and says you got to do your pin wash. Then you got to do your general wash. You got to overcomplicate it. The person's just looking for general information. And then you get your third person comes in. You need to buy this $10 bottle of miracle fluid by such and such company and use this. You know, without asking, well, what's your base coat? Is your base coat acrylic? Or is it enamel? Or is it lacquer? And that's important. If you've got an acrylic base coat, your oil wash is going to be just fine. It's not going to bother the paint in the slightest. What happens if you have an enamel base coat and you go for an oil wash? What do you think will happen? You're going to strip the shit out of your paint. Because nobody told you that the oil wash with the odorless thinner that you use will reactivate enamel paint and lift it off the model. But without foundational knowledge, you didn't know this. Or what if you go to use... Yeah. Again, what if you go to use one of these Miracle fluids by the usual suspect acronym companies. Same exact thing, because a lot of them are enamel based. So they will lift and react to the paint you've got on the surface. And yes, there's people out there that will tout, oh, just give it a good seal of an acrylic clear coat. That can work in most applications, yes. But I can guarantee you that clear coat has a gap in it somewhere. That gap will allow the odorless mineral spirits through the finish. You will ruin your paint. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So there's nobody out there teaching that at all. That's why I work primarily in acrylics for almost everything I do.
At the model, student 20 said I've done it by accident and I should have known better.
Did you have a clear coat over it, acrylic clear coat? Or did you have just the base paint and then you went into the wash? Now, there is...
David 7629 said, lol, forgot about that. Used ammo MIG acrylic varnish. Started to peel off as soon as I applied detail.
Ugh. And here's the other thing, though. I lost my train of thought. But honestly, it's these people that just brand chase all the time that are actually kind of damaging things because they're not teaching. They're just saying, use this, it'll be good. Like, there's guys at my hobby club I used to go to that would have issues all the time. And it's like, well, you're spraying a lacquer clear coat over a lacquer base coat. Your base coat's getting lifted by the clear coat. That's why you're getting peeling. When I was a wee lad, you know, back in the late 80s, early 90s, even I didn't know better, but that's how I learned, is by fucking up a Model or 3. But I also got good at controlling the wash, because all I had at the time were enamels. Testers, acrylic Model Masters had just hit the market, so I hadn't had time to really amass a great deal of them. There were poly-S, but they were getting harder to find as well. That's when all the big shifting was happening. So I worked with what I had, but I also learned, if I am doing enamel over enamel, work slow, work small, and let it dry. So if I was doing a wash over an enamel like this, I'd be doing more of a what they call the pin wash technique. I'd be using a smaller brush and just plucking out the details and letting it run around. Sometimes you get the little watermark, water stain effect, but you could always go back and touch that up and clean it up. It was never death to the model. But with the way certain things these days have to be so generously applied, that's a death sentence if you screw it up. I mean, that's some terrible shit. And also, I think some of the weathering fluids made by those companies are also terpenoid based. So it doesn't matter if you've got acrylic, lacquer, or enamel down. You're stripping that shit. Terpenoids will eat everything, including plastic. Yeah, we're not too worried about washing the undercarriage here. I'm going to hit that up with some European dust after we flat coat. I might throw some mud up in there just to give it that texture, because you can see through the wheels. And the thing is, outside of a forum like this, you can't have that civil discourse about foundational knowledge with a lot of people out there because they're so caught up in their products. Even at the model club, you've got people, oh, no, he doesn't have to worry about that, he's using this product. Yeah, he does have to worry about that.
At the model student 20 said Florey's clay wash is great for most beginners base whether it's natural and water-based. My friend used it for years. I have a set on order.
I have experienced somebody who used it. It didn't like the paint they'd put down, and there were bad side effects. But that's just to say anything can be screwed up, no matter how well you plan. I always liked my oil washes because it's finer grain, finer pigment. I like how I can work it. You know, it's removable even weeks later, so if something happened and I had to put this down, come back to it later, I'd still be able to do exactly what I'm doing here. I might have to scrub a little harder because it would have fully dried by then, but I'd still be able to remove it. I've heard of the clay washes sticking to the paint after they dry for a certain amount of time. Or staining the paint too.
At the model student 20 said I will be cautious at first. I like oil and enamel washes.
There's a reason that these techniques have been around for decades. Yeah, you see how the wash is slightly sticking in all the detail on the non-skid? But this is essentially just to give it a general griminess. It's not like anything specific. Something to peek through wherever the dust and sand washes don't kind of touch it.
George Davis 7629 said gonna have to head off. I will catch you guys next stream. Night all.
Alright, later George. That should be... might even be Saturday night. I'll have to see how I feel after work, but it'll be Friday definitely. Because I'm off then. So Friday day will be the next stream. Saturday evening around this time possibly, then Sunday and Monday.
20 said adding drama. Grinning face with sweat emoji.
Not adding drama, I'm just saying. Anything can be screwed up.
At the model student 20 said CYA George.
But the main thing is I find that those products from those companies are really not intuitive.
At the model student 20 said
Oh.
no, the oil wash is adding drama face with tears of joy emoji.
We always go through this when I do an oil wash, it seems. It's adding that emo-ness. Yeah, but once we get going on the basics builds, I'll probably order the Chieftain Mark 11. I'm running low on Q-tips, so I'm trying not to use too many of them unless I have to. Plus, you got a fuel cap there, one there, one there. I found that the Vallejo streaking grime is really good for doing, like, spilled fuel stains. If you thin it out and learn to apply it right, you can do other things with it, but it's really good for fuel spills. Dries slightly glossy. It's slightly thicker too, so you can kind of drag it around with your brush. Hey, Papa Dookie's here.
The model student 20 said I used a gray wash on the Vodnik interior on top of an off-white. It looks good, not as dark as
Yep.
black.
That's why I mix in a little burnt umber. Because it keeps it from being just dead black. It looks more like greasy dirt, you know? But on an off-white interior, yeah, something like burnt umber or a middle tone gray works really well. There we go. It's starting to look right. Just enough poking out. And you can see how the European dust is starting to dry into the... Okay, autofocus. Always misbehaving. There we go. You can see how it's starting to dry into the recesses and around the bolt heads. But I think the other things I don't like about those products is they're not subtle. I like a product that I can build up slowly and stop where I like it, not something where I put it on and then have to take most of it off for it to have any effect. Wow, that got loud. I really should have done something about those ejector pin marks. Oh well. Not like I'm going to do any contests with it. And that's another aspect of modeling that's kind of getting pushed hard, is the always building for the contest mentality. Or always building for the next showing or thing or meet or group build. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. That'll burn you out. It really will. Having to do everything for something else. Just build. If you build to the best of your abilities, it'll be contest ready, and you won't have to worry about it. You don't have to build for the contest, though. If you have to build for the contest to such a high degree, you're competing with the wrong people. And I've got 3 examples of that right behind me, where if you just build well and enjoy it while you're doing it, you can take it to the contest and probably come home with something. There's 3 figures in this display case that all won. I even built them on stream, and I was like, yeah, I'll probably take them, but I'm not building them for it. It's for me. And if anyone's seen the latest episode of Fallout, please don't ruin it for me.
The model student 20 said, if I don't break something, I'm happy rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
There's that too, there's that aspect. If you're not breaking something, you're doing it right. And guess what else we might do? We might come back and dry brush something. Still thinking about it. Because apparently that's a bad word these days too. Because even in like the miniature painting community, I've seen a lot of people, I'm building this for Adepticon, I'm building this for Golden Demon at Warhammer, whatever it is. And don't get me wrong, they do good work. I'm not, this is not a discredit to their work. But from when I've watched them, it feels like they enjoy it more when they're not under the crunch. And to be honest, they seem to produce more effectively clean work. Yeah. But they produce more quality work when they're not under that gun, or they don't have to fix as much after the fact.
At the model student 20 said dry brushing off.
I'm just trying to shove a lot of the wash more into where I want it to be. You can see how the surface feels less flat, less, wow, I'm just going brain dead, aren't I? It has a bit more life to it. no, before I was talking about, God, I can't remember the name now. Color modulation. To me, it's extremely unrealistic and honestly detracts from what could otherwise be a quality build for some people. Because it causes you to take the colors up into registers that you know they wouldn't normally happen in under really any circumstance. At least on vehicles. Believe it or not, I think color modulation would work very well on figures. Especially like miniatures where you need that detail to pop. And having a slightly lighter or darker zone of that color.
Student 20 said I rely on dry brushing less. When I first started it was like dry brush if there's detail there, rolling on the floor, laughing emoji. Now I'm learning more brush control.
Well, you'll notice I don't dry brush too much, or if I do, it's very selective. I can even get one of the LEVs and show you a prime example of it, where I just use a little of it to pluck things out. It's a legitimate technique, no matter what the snobs tell you. But I think part of where it gets its bad rap is back in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a modeler by the name of Tony Greenland who did some really interesting looking stuff. But everything was so hyper dry brushed that it looked outlandish. I remember seeing it in Fine Scale Modeler, and I appreciated the builds for what they were, but at the same time, the over brushed dry brushing kind of took away from them. And Verlinden used a lot of it too on his models.
20 said it's like magic. When you first start, it's easy to start over using it.
Yeah. Verlinden used it on a lot of his stuff too, but he was also just banging things out, trying to get things to display for his business. So again, understandable. It's a quick method to do some things. But now you hear people say it, and it's like they're spitting shit out of their mouth that tastes bad, you know? It's like, no, there's plenty of reason for it. The key is you don't always have to go with a lighter color. That Tau figure I just posted up last night, I dry brushed part of that with dark gray over the light gray and white armor. Because when most people think dry brushing, they think, I can actually get you an example.
At the model student 20 said there's a time and place for everything someone said once.
Mm-hmm. You are dead on there. I think it's in the Elephant's Dilemma. The wood grain on the cart. I can't find a good enough picture of it. I guess you could use the engine deck of this Tiger as an example. Like all that highlighted with dry brushing, same here, right? Problem is, that's the same color as the paint. Wouldn't that be gray? So if that's black, wouldn't you want to use Gunship Gray? You know? It makes sense in here because you want to go and have like the camos worn off. This is before chipping became the big thing. So it really shows the age of the techniques here too. But yeah, there's, if you look, there's no chipping, there's none of that stuff, but the models are still effective. But I'm just trying to find an example. I can't remember where it was in the book. I think it was on the Beirut diorama. Yeah. Again, like on the road wheels here. You can tell that's dry brushed, you know. There's ways you can overdo it. But back then, the techniques weren't as... people didn't really go through and re-examine things like they have now. I don't want to say they were primitive, but they were definitely of a bygone era. But I can show you on the LAV where I used it. But if I hadn't told you, you wouldn't think it was dry brushing. You would just think that, you know, it naturally looked that way. So, give me a second. I need to stand up a sec anyway.
At the model student 20 said I learned the worn chip paint on tarnished brushed steel. It is a great effect, tons of fun to do it.
But not always the one you want. So if you look at the front here, I went back over certain areas with the base green color, and I went over with the base colors after I did the sand effect, right? Because it helps get the sand down in the cracks as far as visually, but it also pops that anti-slip texture back up right there. So you don't always have to dry brush to highlight to such an extent. You're not looking to make that contrast, you're looking to just enhance detail. It doesn't necessarily mean you've got to make it brighter. And then different intensities and different colors of it here too. Not necessarily the same uniform color the entire time. And all the other dust and everything, that's all the Vallejo stuff. I really like how this one turned out though. But yeah, dry brushing isn't necessarily for creating a high contrast, you know, brighter to lower color variation. How can I explain it? Okay. So like, take this cap, right? Say we wanted to highlight the details on it. You could dry brush it with sand or a lighter green.
The model student 20 said beauty.
Or you could give it a black wash and then re-dry brush the green, enhancing the detail but leaving the tone low. That's about the best way I could describe it. It doesn't always have to be the stark, lighter color going over. You can do darker colors or even the same initial color just to kind of give it life. But whenever you say the word, everybody thinks, oh, you're going to be using it to do just highlights. No. In a way, yes, but not in the way you're thinking. Just using the Q-tip to get into some of the more hard to reach areas. Those turret panels turned out really nice. I eyeballed them based on pictures, but they turned out good. I know today's been kind of a slow stream, but I hope you guys are having some kind of enjoyment watching. Or at least it gives you someone to listen to babble in the background so you're not trapped in your own head. I know I get trapped in my own head enough. And if you would like to contribute to the channel more, through some other means of support, there are donation links if you would like to use them. Don't have to, but I do appreciate it when people do.
At the model student 20 said, I have a paint set that is in kissing face with smiling eyes emoji tritones, light mid dark shades of 15 colors. They're cool for uniforms and neck stuff especially.
Yeah, that's when you start getting into color theory and stuff like that, and I think a lot of other people have blown that out of proportion as well. Every tool has its use, but lately it seems like whenever a new tool is found, it's all anybody uses. For a while, everybody was spouting about color theory. Then it was contrast paints. Then it was the black and white zenithal method, which then started appearing on models like this. And then that zenithal method got combined with color modulation.
Was not me, don't know how that got in there, rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
Uh-huh, sure you don't. But then the zenithal got trapped underneath the color modulation, and yeah, then everybody just stopped talking about it all completely. Color modulation always reminded me of an over-processed HDR picture. That's the best way I think I can describe it. Color modulation always felt like an over-processed HDR digital camera picture. Let me get these off the bench. Put these back, and then we'll be right back to dull coat this.
Method works for me on figs, especially 1/35th. I would use very thin coats over top, and you would get nice shadings and highlights automatically.
You can if you get your glazes right, yes. But I see many people tout zenithal, but by the time the figure's done, you can't even tell they zenithal undercoated it. Like Night Shift, he does zenithal very well. You can still see the highlight of the white showing through with the black and the shadows. All right. Set you aside to dry for a minute. I'll put the link up and I'll check it out. If you can. Sometimes you can't, I know. That's why I like Twitch. They allow most links where YouTube does not. I just had a thought in my head and it disappeared. So depending on what I feel like working on Friday, it could be more of this, Could be frame arms girl, grand scale. I don't know if I should start the LAVM this close to doing the basic build with the C2. If the basic build does well, I'd like to save the LAVM for like beginning modifications. Because I do have the resin aftermarket engine to put in it. And I have some minor scratch building to do in it. So it would be a good example of that kind of stuff, where I can kind of take the books and give them physical comparison, you know? Like, use the books as a guide saying, going by this, here's how we do this. You know, here's a straightforward version of that. Ooh, humidity must be up today. That's okay. I can fix it in post. Maybe.
At the model student 20 said it's called How to Paint an Instrument Panel by FC Phantom 2 link didn't go through.
Give me just a sec. I'll search it up so I can watch it after stream. There's Plastic Alchemist. Okay, found it. Looks like he's working on an A6.
But the model student 20 said it may be a portal to an alternate dimension. Rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
That's alright. Yeah, we're going to be doing so much other stuff to this. I'm not too worried about any slight frosting going on with the overcoat.
20 said, wait till you see the brush he's using.
Probably one of those old Testors white plastic ones. Just looking for any signs of old glossies showing through.
At the model student 20 said it is. At the model student 20 said looking almost done.
Oh no, we're still far from done. I haven't even started painting the figures yet or getting the base layout done. We still have plenty to do. Sometimes you just need to change it up a little bit for your own sanity.
At the model student 20 said just the tank.
Oh, yeah. We're probably 75% of the way there. Next up will be dirt, stowage, you know, usual crap. Yeah, I had a weird reaction this time that I really hadn't had before. But like I said, it's not terrible. It actually adds a little to the dust effect, so I think I'm just going to live with it. Because I do know that the vehicles over there were dusty as all hell. Like, the Centauro was clean, but the Italians kept their shit clean. Every Abrams picture I found from one in Bosnia, completely dirty, dusted over. Oh, that's from the gunner's sight. I'm not even worried about that. Can't even see it anyway.
At the model student 20 said happy accidents someone called those.
Yeah, I still need to work on little trees a bit better, though. The one for the M60 was okay. It has the right feel for one that's lost most of its leaves right before full winter hit. But for this, if I add anything, it's probably going to be more of like shrubs. Maybe a fence with some weeds growing around the bases and like a telephone pole with lines across. I have to look through the books I've got. Just to get a general idea of what the countryside was like. There. One more flush
The
out.
model student 20 said those magic trees are great. They are just small. You have to glue a few together to make bigger ones.
Are you on Instagram at all? You can find me under Busy Builder Models there if you want to send me links there. I just want to get a look at them. I want to see what the flocking is like.
The model student 20 said yes.
Yeah, just look up Busy Builder Models, you'll find me. Somebody had already stolen the Busy Builder name by the time I got on there. But with that, I want to give this a night to fully cure up. Well, it feels like we didn't get a lot done. We actually did. So I might tinker on the lower hull off stream just to get some things going on that. But yeah, I like where it's going. So we're going to shut down for now. I can smell dinner's cooking upstairs. It's also been over 2 hours, so good weekday stream. So thanks everybody for hanging out. Whoever is still here, I don't know who is. I know Model Student is. I don't know if Aries is. I think everybody else left for the night. So thanks everybody for watching and hanging out. And I'll see y'all Friday. Probably start working on the figures and start getting an idea for what we want to do for the display base. How we want to arrange it, how big we want it. And yeah, that'll be that.